Hello and welcome to the 13 Original Clan Mothers by Jamie Sams. I've been reading every month's story and doing a little teaching around it as part of my Forbes Full Moon Women's Circle here in New South Wales, Australia. For those of my beautiful sisters who can't make it to the full moon gathering, we connect via this newsletter to share the chapter and I do a little teaching at the end. So here is Storyteller. Enjoy. Tell me a story, sweet mother, of the ancestors and their days, of how they walked with beauty, learning the medicine ways. As you relate the stories, I am allowed to see the importance of every lesson and how it applies to me. Through another's example, I share the laughter and the tears. Through another's experience, I learn how love can conquer fear. Together we can journey through those other times, reclaiming all the wisdom of the legacies left behind. Clan Mother of the 6th Moon Cycle. Storyteller is the clan mother of the moon cycle that falls in the month of June and is represented by the color red. Storyteller teaches us to have faith, to be humble, and to stay young at heart by keeping our innocence intact. These are some of the medicines found in the color red. The 6th cycle of truth, guarded by this clan mother, is speaking the truth. Storyteller teaches her human children how to speak from their hearts, always saying what they mean in a truthful, clear, and concise manner. This clan mother is the teacher of truth and the pathfinder who shows us the faith we need to find our way through the illusory forests of our own confusions. Storyteller teaches us that speaking the truth is the basis of the oral tradition that keeps universal, timeless wisdom alive. The hard-learned lessons that have guided other human beings safely down the red road of physical life apply to all humans because they are based on eternal truths. Storyteller teaches us how to use humor to dispel our fears and how to balance the sacredness with irreverence. When we can laugh at our humanness and our silly attempts to preserve our limitations, we will have conquered the self-created demons that bind us to high drama and our need to create constant upheaval. Through listening to the stories of others and how they handled the lessons presented on their paths, we are able to gain perspective of how our rites of passage on earth. This clan mother is also the holder of Heyoke medicine, tricking us into growth through laughter. The Heyoka can show us how to achieve the wholeness our Arinda's desire by going through the back door or countryside of any lesson. The spiritual essence, or Arinda, sees beyond human tunnel vision and can work with Heyoka medicine to push us beyond our stubbornness. The Heyoka will clown around, giving us subtle lessons that we can reflect upon or ignore. Storyteller can also weave a story that embodies the characteristics of a person's life lessons without pointing a finger at the individual. The Heyoka personality of Storyteller then tricks the listener into safely seeing his or her situation through the eyes of an observer, instead of having to confront the issue head-on. Storyteller uses the gifts of wisdom presented by the ancient ones, now in spirit, to present the truths that help those ancestors. When truth has been used to solve life's problems and challenges, those truths are to be shared with future generations. Storyteller and her moon cycle are connected to the color red because blood is red. The wisdom of all ancestors and their lessons are coded in the DNA of the blood. In traditional Indian medicine, the blood has always been acknowledged as the river of life that flows through our bodies, allowing us to claim the knowing held by the wise elders who came before us. Only in modern times have scientists discovered that the DNA carries the genetic imprint. But they have not discovered that the collective mind and spirit of the human race can be accessed through the patterns of DNA in every human cell and in the blood. Storyteller allows every listener to hear the stories of how others found their truth in their lives. Through the words of truths she speaks, this clan mother teaches us to know how to speak from our personal truths and from our sacred points of view when we are asked for an opinion. When we are not asked to make a comment, she teaches us to listen without having to add our unwanted advice. The guardian of the medicine stories reminds us that speaking the truth never hurts anyone if it is done with love, and if we do not include the projections of self-righteousness or the petty judgments we often use to criticize ourselves. Speaking the truth is an art that never includes judging another. Pointing a finger at another always leaves 3 fingers pointing back to the accuser. This kind of judgment never allows the person who is the target of the criticism to find the truth for himself or herself. Like Storyteller, a person wishing to speak the truth without pointing a finger can share a story of how he or she learned a lesson or passed safely through a crisis. This teacher of truth reminds us that people who are passing half-truths, breaking the trust of a confidence, or being rumor factories are doing so because they are wounded. Because of their inability to speak the truth even to themselves, they project the lies and illusions inside their woundedness onto the nearest human reflection or situation they can find. Now, this is the story of Storyteller as she lived her earth walk when she was a human before she went into the spirit world to guide us from there. This is her story, and it's called The Telling of Tales. Storyteller looked into the faces of the children who had gathered around her to listen to the stories she would share with her tribe's council of wee people. The fire was reflected in the expectant faces of the little ones, giving Storyteller an audience of rapt admirers. The love they felt for Storyteller came from the way the clan mother treated them with respect. Storyteller had taught the preceding generations of many clans and tribes that the children were full-grown spirits in tiny bodies. Hence, the Council of Children became the Council of Wee People. The night sky was moonless, bringing thousands of stars into view. This sleep began the new moon cycle of the ripening moon. The starry medicine bowl of the night sky gave everyone a sense that something spectacular was about to happen. The breeze carried the sweet perfume of mimosa blossoms that dangled from branches of the tree people who encircled the clan mother's lodge. Lightning bugs danced in the air around the tall cattails, wild mint and red clover-lined brook that snaked through the camp. Occasionally, fireflies would flicker and twinkle in the warm summer night. Storyteller decided that it was a perfect time to share the story of how Firefly got his blinking light. The children who made up the Council of Wee People were entranced by the clan mother, the stars and the dancing fireflies trying to decide what was more interesting to their curious minds. Nawe Sekinoa, thank you for being healthy, Storyteller began with the traditional greeting that brought the children's wandering attention back to her. The little ones knew that this greeting was the formal sign that they were to settle down, to be very still and to listen without interrupting. Storyteller only told short stories to the Council of Wee People because the youngest children, who had passed only 3 summers, had much shorter attention spans than the older ones, who were also part of the council. When a child passed his or her 11th summer, the boys moved to the Young Warriors Council and the girls joined the Council of the Butterfly, which prepared them for their budding and blossoming transformation into womanhood. Storyteller cleared her throat and began her tale. Many, many long moons ago, the firefly was known by another name. He was a star and his name was Forgets to Twinkle. This little brother was a part of the great star nation and lived in with his 7 sisters, or their stars, his 7 sister stars, who were shining brightly in the sky. Storyteller pointed to the 7 stars inside the constellation of the Great Buffalo, showing the children where to look. The 7 sisters' stars held the 7 sacred directions of east, south, west, north, above, below, and within, teaching all of us in the human tribe to honor the abundance that the Great Buffalo brings to us from every direction. Forgets to Twinkle was always sad because his sisters had the missions of holding the 7 sacred directions for the Great Buffalo, and he wasn't sure what his mission was. He was so very sad that sometimes he let his light fade away, and that is how he earned his name, Forgets to Twinkle. One sleep, when Grandmother Moon was showing her full face, Forgets to Twinkle asked her for permission to leave the Sky Nation and go nearer to the Earth Mother to discover more about his purpose in life. Grandmother Moon said that Forgets to Twinkle could go, but that he should be careful not to go too close to the Earth. The Earth Mother's magnetism could hold him and keep him from coming home. Forgets to Twinkle agreed that he would pay attention and only travel where it was safe. On the first sleep, Forgets to Twinkle traveled through the Sky Nation until he was hanging in the clouds above Sacred Mountain. His heart was very happy because he could see all of the little sisters and brothers of the Creator tribe playing in the moonlight. He shouted down to Brother Coyote and asked if he could join in the play. Coyote was known by all the other animals as the trickster, but little Forgets to Twinkle did not know anything about any of the children of the earth because he had never been anywhere but the Sky Nation. Trickster Coyote shouted back that he would be delighted if his little star brother wanted to play with him, but Coyote thought Forgets to Twinkle was too far away. Forgets to Twinkle thought a moment and then decided to come closer, dancing in the sky while Coyote danced with him on earth. Coyote started talking to little Sky Brother very softly, making Forgets to Twinkle come closer to hear what the trickster was saying. Softer and softer words of friendship brought the little star out of the sky until he was floating just over Coyote's head. Storyteller paused for a little moment, allowing all the children to wonder what would happen next. When she had every wide-eyed face glued to hers, she raised her voice in increments, finally shouting at the scary part. Then that mean old trickster grabbed Forgets to Twinkle and gobbled him up. The children gasped, and some squealed, forgetting their manners for a moment. Well, I suppose that all of you know how terrified Forgets to Twinkle was when he found himself inside of the trickster's belly. He was so upset he forgot to twinkle and did not know how in the world he was going to get out safely. Around the same moment, the coyote gobbled up the little star. He gobbled up the little star brother. Grandmother Moon looked down and noticed that Forgets to Twinkle was nowhere in sight. She looked and looked, but could not see her little star brother anywhere. Because she was so concerned, she sent the stars with tails, who were her scouts, out to look for little brother. In those ancient times, the comet people were messengers who could come and go from the great star nation. These stars with tails searched high and low for little brother without any luck in finding him. Inside the trickster's belly, the little star brother was frightened, but he knew that he had better start remembering all the wisdom his 7 sisters had taught him, or he would never see them again. After a long while, he finally remembered why he was called Forgets to Twinkle. He had always been afraid that his light was not as pretty as his sisters, and so he would only blink a little light here and there. Now that he was trapped inside Coyote's belly, he decided he had better trust his ability to shine brightly. He huffed and puffed and sent all of his light into his little star body, lighting himself and shining as brightly as he could. The trickster suddenly found that the trick was on him. When his whole furry body lit up like Grandfather's sun, Coyote ran and ran, trying to hide from the comet scouts that Grandmother Moon had sent to find little brother. The trickster had seen the stars with tails circling in the prairies, looking for Forgets to Twinkle. Old Coyote had thought he could trick the Star Scouts as easily as he had tricked little brother. Now the slippery trickster was so bright that there was no place he could run or hide without the Star Scouts finding him. In a panic, the trickster opened his mouth and spat little star brother out and then ran away. The stars with tails spread the news of to the cloud people, who told the thunderers, who told the fire sticks that the mean old trickster needed a taste of his own medicine. The Sky Nation was filled with the little star brothers' angry relations who gathered the storms, filling the cloud people with raindrop people and ice beings who could wet and punch Coyote with their water and ice bodies. Hinoa, the thunder chief, belched his rolling roar, and the thunderbird flapped his giant wings, bringing such enormous sounds that the trickster stood quaking in fear. Meanwhile, little Star Brother was trapped in Earth Mother's magnetism. He could not move from the ground and go home. He was still shining brightly, so that his sky relations could see where he was, but no one could rescue him because they were caught in the planetary mother's magnetism as well. He called out to the Earth Mother and asked her to release him and waited for her reply. The storm was moving across the land, giving the trickster a chance to run as he finally found his paws and started to dodge the pellets of ice and freezing rain. Lightning bolts crashed around him and one of Fire Stick's hit him, finally catching his tail on fire. Coyote ran and ran, trying to think how he could trick the sky relations and make them leave him alone. Little Star Brother finally heard the Earth Mother speak amid the sounds of the thunderers. Her voice traveled in the raging winds that accompanied the storm his relations had made. Forgets to twinkle. You are going to have to live with the children of Earth now. If I release my magnetism, you will be able to go home, but all of my children will fall off the earth and go flying into the sky. You are responsible for getting to pay attention to Earth Mother's advice and warning. There is no way that I can help you without hurting my own children. You must stay here with us and decide what kind of creature you would like to become. Forgets to Twinkle was sad, but he knew that the Earth Mother was right. He had not paid attention and had been tricked into ignoring Grandmother Moon's warning. He wanted to be part of the Sky Nation and see the world from above as he had always done when he lived with his 7 sisters. He knew that he would never again forget to shine his light brightly because he wanted his sky relations to know where he was and how he remembered his family. He decided to tell Earth Mother that he wanted to be a flying creature who could shine like a star. The Earth Mother agreed and changed him into a flying, creepy crawler of the insect tribe. She put a tiny star in his tail so that he could twinkle in at his sky relations, reminding all the other little brothers and sisters in the great Sky Nation what could happen to them if they did not pay attention to the wisdom of their elders. Even now, if Coyote hears thunder or sees a firefly, he will run away in fear. The trickster remembers that the fire sticks caught his tail on fire and that he had to jump into a pond to put it out. Some people say that the fire sticks and thunder beings counted coup on Coyote, bringing victory and honor to the little Star Brother. That is how Forgets to Twinkle earned the name Lightning Bug. His firefly tail lights up to remind Coyote of the only relations that ever out-tricked the trickster by catching his tail on fire. When Firefly's tail lights up, we 2-leggeds are reminded to let our medicine shine and to keep a twinkle in our eyes so that trickster cannot fool us into following the crooked trail. All of the children sat with open mouths or wide eyes gaping at Storyteller, savoring the richness of little Star Brother's story. Older sisters and brothers came by to gather the wee ones back to the lodges to make ready for the sleep man. They had all heard Storyteller tell the tale of the sleep man and knew that after a nightly story, the sleep man would come to sprinkle sleep sand in their eyes. If the children were still awake, the sleep man would be angry and their dreams would not be happy dreams. If they were settled for the night, the sleep man would bring happy dreams to the little ones. Everybody wanted happy dreams. And so the tribe never had a problem getting the children tucked into warm sleeping robes and off to the dreamland. Storyteller watched as the wee council departed with parents and other siblings. Their tiny voices said, "Nay, asot, agadenethado." Thank you, grandmother. I had fun. The clan mother acknowledged the thanks and farewells and prepared to retire to her lodge. She sent her silent thanks to the great mystery for the enrichment that the children brought into her life and the gifts she was able to pass to the little ones, giving them a strong foundation for growth. She was brought from her thoughts when she heard the howl of the wolf, who always walked beside her in spirit. Her totem gave her the ability to create new paths of learning and teaching. The pack of timber wolves who lived above the river in the hills had been her friends over many ripening moons when her tribe came to live by the river. Often she had observed their hunting and their play when she visited the upper meadows. She raised her voice to salute her brothers and sisters, returning their greetings with a howl that matched their own. The clown mother's greeting was answered again, signaling that the sleep man was beckoning Storyteller to rest and refresh her body so that she could dream the joys to be found in the coming sun. Later, when Storyteller was nestled in her sleeping robes, she dreamed of Magpie, who was sometimes called Little Black Eagle in her dream. Magpie was riding the back of Buffalo, feasting on the insects that had collected in the buffalo's fur. The black and iridescent midnight blue of Magpie's feathers shone in the sunlight, flashing amid the white touches of feathers, gracing her wings and tail. In the dream, Magpie told of her medicine, which was the talent of receiving the pain of others. Little Black Eagle taught Storyteller that discomfort was a warning that showed change in her body. Magpie told Storyteller that some two-leggeds were not willing to go through any discomfort because they did not understand that chills and fevers were the body's way of shedding limitation. After the human tribe understood the lessons of growth found through the challenges of discomfort, Magpie would send her spirit to remove the discomfort and pain. Like her namesake, Eagle, Magpie showed two-leggeds how to find freedom. Eagle taught the freedom of spirit, and Magpie taught how to allow the spirit's understanding and freedom to enter the body. Storyteller was the listener in her dream, just as the children were her listeners during her waking hours. The keeper of humor nearly woke herself when she laughed while listening to Magpie harping about her cousin from the tropical regions of Turtle Island. Magpie described the winged cousin as having the biggest beak imaginable and bright-colored feathers. Because the cousin's beak was so big compared to her body, she was known for having her nose in someone else's business. But in fact, she noticed everything that could bring harm. Little Black Eagle called the cousin Toucan and said that this cousin's medicine was warning system of the jungle. Toucan sometimes visited the dreams of human tribe who lived far, far away in order to make them more observant. When trouble or danger was near, Toucan would fly through the jungle in the tangible world, or send her spirit flying through the dream time, calling out a warning to those who needed to heed the danger signal. Magpie nearly always followed Toucan, flying through dreams, showing human beings how to avoid the painful lessons found by not being aware of the warning signs and dangers along the red road of life. Little Black Eagle told the keeper of the medicine stories how her big-beaked cousin's warnings could teach human beings to be aware of situations that could strip them of their physical well-being. Toucan sent a warning in life-threatening situations, reminding unwary daydreamers that paying attention could save them from being physically harmed. Since Toucan lived in a very distant part of Turtle Island, Magpie was introducing the clan mother to Toucan's medicine through the dream, giving Storyteller the knowledge of Toucan's medicine so that she would have his protection if she ever needed it. Storyteller thanked the Little Black Eagle for the introduction and for the lesson she had discovered in her dream. When Storyteller awoke, she discovered the grandfather's sunlight had not yet graced the morning sky, and so she lay in silence, reflecting on the medicine she had received during the night. Story after story filled her head with new ways to share the wisdom that had been presented to her. The clan mother felt a sense of newness as she smelled the dew-covered plants on the morning breeze. Storyteller listened to the water song of the river running near her lodge and was content. The oral traditions would near her lodge would continue to live as long as those who spoke their eternal truths passed them from generation to generation, giving the human children of earth a way to understand their lives. She was happy that she was part of the oral legacy and that the creature teachers were willing to share their medicine with her so that she could pass the medicine on through the tale she told. The guardian of the medicine stories closed her eyes for a moment and saw the spirit of her new friend Toucan. Silently, she allowed her thoughts to ask Toucan if the winged one had sent her spirit for a reason, or was he just greeting the clan mother on this new sun? Toucan spoke to Storyteller, whispering a message that would always be a part of the Keeper of Humor's memory. Mother, I have come to tell you that many changes will befall the two-leggeds during the passage of worlds. My warning is twofold. If the children of earth forget to laugh at themselves, they will perish from their actions they take when seriousness strangles their sense of play and laughter. The human tribe needs to be shown how to use humor to diffuse potentially painful or destructive situations. If they forget how to balance the sacredness with the irreverence, the joy of living will be lost. If they forget how to balance the sacredness with the irreverence and the joy of living. If they forget how to balance the sacredness with the irreverence, the joy of living will be lost. Okay. The second part of my warning concerns the keeping of oral traditions. When a medicine story has passed to many generations and contains truth, those wise ways will support humans in their growth throughout time. To allow those stories to die would be an injustice. The children of earth will change, and some will lose their connections to the natural world. If only through their dreams, the medicine stories will keep them connected to the rest of the planetary family. Any person who can speak the truth by telling a tale that will give listeners a way to reflect on their lives without pointing a finger will carry my medicine of warning. If the warnings allow those listening, to come back into balance, unity will be achieved. Storyteller thanked Toucan for her twofold warning and then showed her feathered friend how well she had heard the message by replying, "So, my big beak sky sister, I am to remember that if we do not pay attention to the wisdom found in the telling of tales, we may find ourselves showing our tales to the world." Storyteller and Spirit of Toucan laughed and laughed. The sunlight that had broken through the pre-dawn grayness, the stern warnings had been taken to heart and understood. The warnings of the hard lessons found in imbalance reflected human pain and sorrow. But laughter had counted coup on the dark clouds that stood as human limitations, seemingly hiding the joys that could be found in being human. Storyteller understood and was willing to face the future with her children, always being mindful that each human being had to find these truths for herself in order to pass through the spirit's evolution. She knew that her stories would be a comfort to the weary on the sacred path, and for that reason, she would give them away so that speaking the truth of wisdom and the sacred traditions would never die. I love this story, and I have to share that I was given a beautiful message about the importance of humor in a dream only hours after a colleague of mine had died. I had no idea that she died. When I woke up, I went to work to share my story of how she'd come to share a story with us, only to be told that she had died at 9 o'clock the night before. In my dream, my colleagues, all of the staff at the school, all the teachers and education officers and support staff and everyone at the school who worked at the school, we were all in the staff room. And we were being really wild, and we were really intoxicated, and we were really laughing. We were just laughing so much. And I was feeling bad, like, oh, I shouldn't be being so silly with, I feel bad that I'm being so silly with the staff. And she grabbed my face and she just looked in my eyes with this wild hair and this beautiful eyes. And she just said, you have to have fun with the children. You have to love them like your own. You have to have fun. It's all about joy and having fun. And I realized it was a message for teachers and mothers and anyone who has anything to do with the children of the world. It was a message that they're going to learn their lessons, but how can we find humor and support them in a playful way? How can we give them a lesson or a story without pointing a finger at them and being self-righteous? How can we give anyone guidance if we're asked without sounding self-righteous, like I said, and making them feel that they're doing the wrong thing, because it's their story. And I think this story, such a beautiful thing. That's right, the telling of tales. If we're asked for our advice, well, for me, I love just telling a story. And I just say, well, I don't know, but for me, I did this when I was in that situation. And then you're just saying, you're just sharing something on the road. You're not saying do this or giving anyone a feeling that they need to change. You're just sharing how you experienced a similar situation. I love that. And if you're not asked for advice, can you just listen and just acknowledge that this is their story and their path? And about shining our light, how often do we forget to shine our light? And this story is all about not forgetting, continuing to shine. And the story is all about listening to the wisdom of all of our planetary family, and then not forgetting that, not forgetting those beautiful stories that we've told from our ancestors, so that we can learn from all of their lessons and trials and tribulations. Can we learn from them? And also the wisdom of the oral tradition. This has to be kept up. I think I say, my children from birth, really, until they leave the nest when they're 18, we've had dinner together as a family every night. Gosh, if you add that up, that's 18 years of dinners every night. And at dinner, there's no TV, there's no phones, there's nothing to be distracting us. And we just tell stories. And we share everything about our day, about our life, memories, holidays we've had, things they did when they were little. That is just as simple as it gets. That's the oral tradition. When I speak to someone whose mother's died, like the mother I'm talking about, the collie who came to me in the dream, when I speak to her son, I tell him all the stories that I can remember that she told me and how beautiful she was to me. When my nephew was dying of a brain tumor, she was the one who always wanted to ask about him and be there and listen for me. That's also the oral tradition. There are so many. So I think the telling of tales is about that. It's about when can we share a story of something that we've learnt in a way that's really non-threatening and beautiful. How can we see the stories of others? How can we see the stories of the plant people, the trees, the animals, the flora, the fauna? All of those can tell stories too. The stones, the crystals, everything has a story, but can we see it and listen to it, and can we learn from it? Because we're all on this beautiful red road as we walk our earth walk. And there are all these incredible tools to help us, and the wisdom that can be gained from Storyteller. And also the color red signifies our ancestors. When we welcomed in this clan mother at our full moon women's circle, so many of the women said to me that the meditation for them was all about their ancestors and all about honoring the women and the men and all those that have come before us who have done so much to help us be the people we are today, even to fight for our freedoms, fight for democracy, fight for women's lib, fight for all the things now that we are so grateful to have. So I look forward to hearing how you have explored Storyteller this month. How do we learn too? A lot of this came up for me about how do we learn. So what ignites and interests us? That's also something that came up. And those in your life, how do they learn and how are they best guided? So learning how others learn differently to us is also really special. So walking this path this month, I invite you just to look at your story also and how you tell your story. How we tell our story has more impact on us and those around us than the actual events. How can we rewrite our story in a more positive way? How can we see that I benefited from those, I created that experience to learn from it, and now it's no longer relevant. I don't need to learn that way anymore. I can write my story a different way. I don't have to be a victim to my old stories. I can write the new in the now, which is what my book's about. So what story are we writing? Let's write it together. Let's collectively evolve human consciousness. Let's create world peace. It's all in the ancient stories, and we're writing the current stories now. So let's write that together. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful month.